Yes, sir. I know I'm late, but the Washington Commanders have traded for 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel yesterday. Jayden Daniels is excited. We're going to talk about that. The Washington tried to include Jonathan Allen in the trade. We're going to talk about that. And of course, we got to talk about how the Washington Commanders got a steal. We're going to even bring in some of the analysis and opinions of a lot of experts around the NFL right now and how they feel the Commanders just got away with robbery. But before we get into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Appreciate y'all for pulling up and supporting every video. Again, I'm sorry I'm so late with this one. I was that busy yesterday. I was almost about to just go ahead and do a reaction and record it live in my car or something like that, but I appreciate y'all for even still coming to watch this video after I'm so late doing it. So really appreciate y'all. Without further ado, let's go dive into this video, man, because y'all know how I get. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so first trade of the off season, we just kicked it off. Like a party ain't started till the Commanders pull up, basically. And I mean, the Commanders have now traded for Tyson Raekwon Samuel, just to let you know if you didn't know his real name. Adam Peters out here doing business with his former higher up and everything. Like, man, shouts out to the 49ers for even conducting business within the NFC. I was a little surprised that they were willing to trade him in the same conference, because now you definitely got to go through us to get to the Super Bowl, right? And you know, I mean, Deebo Samuel, as prideful as he is, we're going to dive into that a little later. Boy, you don't want to run into us in the playoffs. That boy going to have the best game of his life. He feels very disrespected by this whole situation. Again, we're going to dive into that later. But hey, shouts out to Adam Peters, you know, talking to his boy John Lynch, coming to an agreement on the trade. Let's get it. So let's talk about what happened first before we get into anything else. Ian Rappaport tweeted and reported the 49ers are trading star wide receiver to the Commanders for draft pick compensation, sources say. Samuel, due $21.7 million this year, now heads to join former San Francisco executive Adam Peters and to play with quarterback Jayden Daniels, who gets another weapon. Then Adam Schefter came out and tweeted, the first 2025 offseason NFL trade. San Francisco has agreed to send standout wide receiver Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders in exchange for a 5th-round pick. Like any trade agreed to now, it cannot actually be processed until the new league year begins Wednesday, March 12th. So you got to wait 10 days for this trade to become official. But by then, you're going to start seeing reports and announcements that the Commanders have signed this and this. They've come to an agreement with this guy and all of these type of things. That'll actually start 8 days from now when the legal tampering period starts. The new league year is in 10 days. So buckle up, man. In like a little over a week, things are about to get crazy. This is just the very small start to it. And throughout this entire video, I'm gonna try to do my best to explain why some people that do not like this trade, why you should be excited for it. First of all, I mean, Adam Peters, I trust. We're definitely gonna talk about that. I'm always gonna constantly bring up why we should always give Adam Peters the big benefit of the doubt, but also the familiarity between Adam Peters and Anthony Lynn. I don't think that could be overstated, man. I mean, Adam Peters was the general manager for the 49ers just in 2023, and Anthony Lynn was the whole run game coordinator and everything like that for the 49ers just in 2023 as well. So he's literally worked with Deebo Samuel. The side of Deebo Samuel that we hope to get out of him, Anthony Lynn knows what to do, knows how to get it out of him. So number one, because of actually working with Deebo Samuel for multiple years, not only were they able to do their homework on him, especially with their current strong connections to the 49ers, where they could easily just hit people up and be like, all right, tell us what's really going on with Deebo Samuel type of thing. And then number two, also, there's familiarity with how to get the best out of him. I mean, both on the field and off the field tendencies. How does he watch film? Like, you know, is he lazy? Does he come to training camp overweight? Things like that. Like, they would know. They were just there in 2023 together with Deebo Samuel. All of them just reunited. So do we let Deebo Samuel also get his #1 jersey, even if we do re-sign Noah Benogany? I'm assuming so. Because a starting wide receiver versus a backup corner, you know, I like Noah Benogany a lot, but he's probably got to switch to a different number. Even though Noah is a really good backup, but a guy that we just signed late in free agency last year compared to a guy that we just traded for, even though it's only a 5th round pick, there's a difference there. So hey, shouts out to Noah Benogany. I rock with you, but I think we're going to end up giving Deebo that number 1 number, unless he wants to change. Maybe new scenery, new number, new chapter in life type of thing. We'll see. Also, since the San Francisco 49ers agreed to trade wide receiver Deebo Samuel to Washington the time that they did, we will acquire a 1-year $17.5 million non-guaranteed deal, which gives us so much flexibility to extend them if we want to make the deal even cheaper per year. We can, if it doesn't work out this year, you could just straight up cut them with very little dead cap and things like that. Like, you're good to go. This is a big, high reward, low risk situation for the Washington Commanders, and we're gonna dive into that 5th round pick as well. Don't think we're not gonna talk about that 5th round pick and why that could potentially be a steal, even from a guy that didn't want to trade for Deebo Samuel, that was willing to wait till he's cut. I understand the 5th round pick. We're gonna dive into our history of 5th round picks, and I'm gonna explain why Deebo Samuel is better than at least all but one of those 5th round picks. So we're good to go. Don't worry about a 5th round pick, man. And I'm gonna break down how you can easily get another 5th round pick again with the picks that we have in the draft later, like the 6th and 7th round. So just stay tuned for that. And then also the 49ers acquire a dead cap of $31 million. I am surprised that they did this, man. The Niners will lose $15.1 million of cap space per this trade, which won't become official until after the March 12th league year starts. But them trading away Deebo Samuel just cost them an additional $15 million in cap space, but he's going to be $31 million in dead cap. That's what they're paying for a guy that isn't even on their team. I'm shocked that we could even give him for a 2nd round pick after all of that. And not only do I believe that the Commanders maybe at some point in this season, after seeing him balling out, they will extend him, but there's also reports, even from John Keim himself, that it is possible that the Commanders will extend his deal, especially if you want to make him cheaper now to gain more cap space for this upcoming free agency that starts in technically 8-10 days, legal tampering period, then new league year. Then you can extend him and make him cheaper on a per year basis. Rather than him hitting us for $17 million against the cap this year, you can maybe spread it out to where he's like $7 to $8 million this year, and then it increases the next year after that, then increases the year after that, and things like that. That way you can do whatever you can to have as much flexibility as possible to acquire as many players that you need this free agency period. Even though I'm not sure that they will, I don't think it's very likely. I think that you can afford that $17.5 million cap hit with the flexibility that you don't have to worry about him next year if he sucks. I doubt he sucks, though. We're going to dive into why I think he will get closer to his 2021 self here than he was any other version, like 2023 version of himself, 2024 version of himself. Just watch. But cap space update wise, now the Commanders have $64.4 million in cap space, which puts us right behind the Chargers, which is 6th in the NFL. You have the Patriots still. $127 million is insane. Then the Raiders are 2nd with $96 million. Bears are 3rd with $79 million. Cardinals are 4th with $78 million. Then the Chargers are 5th with $66.443 million. And then we're 6th with $64.448 million. But the reasons over the cap has us behind the Chargers is because they feel like the Chargers have slightly more effective cap space. So just be on the lookout for that. Out of the way, though, we still have a lot of cap space. And remember that we can get an additional $16.3 million in cap relief if we trade or cut Jonathan Allen, which is most likely to happen. I feel like similar to this whole 49ers Deebo situation. If we can't trade him, we'll just cut him. But we ended up trading a 5th round pick for Deebo. We'll see what happens with Jonathan Allen. But my point is, more than likely, remember to add another $16.3 million to our cap space, which would put us right back to 3rd in cap space rankings, right ahead of the Bears as well. So we'd be right back to where we were. We wouldn't have exactly as much cap space, technically, from gaining Deebo Samuel and then getting rid of Jonathan Allen. You net a negative $1.2 million in cap space. But again, getting rid of Jonathan Allen will put us right back in 3rd place, only behind the Patriots and Raiders, just in case if you're wondering. And then also, speaking of Jonathan Allen, There's a report that the 49ers and Commanders discussed Jonathan Allen as part of the Deebo Samuel trade. The Commanders are clearly shopping Jonathan Allen. That's the main point of me telling y'all that. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reported that the 49ers and Commanders discussed Jonathan Allen in the trade that ultimately sent wide receiver Deebo Samuel to Washington. However, the two sides ultimately decided to not include Allen in the trade. Fowler mentioned that Allen's $16.4 million he's owed for 2025 is a potential hurdle in trade talks right now. It's the money that he's owed. The reason that we want to get rid of him, that we're willing to let him walk, trade him or whatever, is the exact reason that other teams do not want to trade for him right now, because they're not ready to take on $16.4 million worth of cap space. So that's the problem. That's literally the problem right there. And so the 49ers are at the very least interested. So it sounds like Jonathan Allen, at the very least, is going to have a market if we cut him. We just got to see if we can find a way to trade him for any draft pick. But again, I'm assuming at some point we will get that $16.4 million in cap space back. 16.3, 16.4, you know, very close. But also moving on, definitely saw this coming. When Dan Quinn, his last question that was asked in the media scrum with local reporters back on Wednesday at the Combine, this was his answer basically when he was asked to describe the wide receiver that he wants.
In terms of the pieces on offense to help Jayden, you guys obviously had found success with Zach Ertz and some of the other receivers. Is there like just more speed, or are you waiting for guys like McCaffrey and Sinnott, or what do you kind of see as the skill player needs to help Jayden, help the offense get to another level?
We want to attack, man. And so however we can find ways to go do that, we will. We ran the most no-huddle snaps in the league. That's part of our edge. You know, not counting 2-minute in that, I'm saying. So finding guys that can attack, play in space, play with quickness, be violent in their cuts. Those are things at all the spots, running backs, tight ends, receivers, that we want to do. And so we're going to keep finding guys that fit that and can attack and be aggressive, and that's what we'll do.
And of course, a lot of people maybe assume that, okay, that's what he's looking for in a draft wide receiver. That's why he's at the Combine. No, he literally described Deebo Samuel with that quote. Like literally, that was literally Deebo Samuel. So Deebo Samuel, it was all written all over it. I mean, even when you go back and look at like last year when they were at the Combine, or anytime they spoke to the media, they basically described Jayden Daniels. Now when you go back and look at it, hindsight 2020, every time they spoke to the media, even though they do a great job of not saying too much or giving us too much, you got to like really read in between the lines. When you do that, they were describing Jayden Daniels to a T, with a lot of the comments and compliments that they had for the guys that they were looking for in the draft, especially second overall wise specifically. And then they basically did the same thing with Deebo Samuel. So, hey, believe what they say. They're giving you clues like, hey, we're looking for this type of guy, and then they do it. Now let's talk about how Adam Peters is a magician. I mean, you got to remember the fact that we got a 3rd round pick. Now, there was a couple of pick swaps like late in the draft, you know, later in the draft, later rounds that were involved in that trade. But ultimately, the Commanders got rid of Jahan Dotson for a 3rd and then got Deebo Samuel for a 5th. Man, if that ain't putting on your big boy pants, I don't know what is, man. Adam Peters is different. Remember, we traded Sam Howell for more value than any other quarterback in that entire draft class. Remember, Sam Howell went in like the 5th round. You had Desmond Ridder, who I believe went in like the 2nd or 3rd. Kenny Pickett went in the 1st. And all of those other quarterbacks, you know, had relative value. You could argue that Desmond Ridder technically should have had more value in a trade. Somehow, Adam Peters found a way to get more for Sam Howell than any other team got for that quarterback class when they traded their guys. And then to get Jahan Dotson, get rid of him for a 3rd round pick. And then soon after that, you have teams using 3rd round picks to get Amari Coopers, to get Devontae Adams and things like that. Come on, man. And then also, shouts out to Phil Yates. Assuming that the 5th round pick from Washington to San Francisco is in 2025, it will be pick 148. That was acquired literally in the Marshawn Lattimore trade from New Orleans when we swapped picks. So the net deal would then be Commanders get Lattimore and Deebo Samuel for a 2025 3rd, 4th, and 6th rounder. If that's not magic, if that's not finesse, I don't know what is, man. And then you also got to remember there's a world out there where the Cowboys traded a 4th round pick for Panthers wide receiver Jonathan Mingo. Now, granted, yes, Jonathan Mingo is cheaper than Deebo Samuel and younger, but come on, man, Jonathan Mingo for a 4th, but we can get Deebo Samuel for a 5th. Come on, man. And if you still feel like a 5th round pick is too high, and I can admit, again, I was one of those people that was just trying to wait until the 49ers released him and then signed him because it felt like he would prefer to be with us. You can already tell by how excited he is on social media, which we're going to dive into later, how excited Jayden Daniels and Deebo Samuel are right now. But my thing was, he clearly wants to join the Commanders. Yeah, I mean, based off of the fact that we made it to the NFC Championship and everything like that. So we could just probably wait it out, and then he'll sign with us in free agency if no other team trades for him. But there were probably other teams that were seriously trying to trade for him. That's probably why we were like, all right, let's just give up a 5th-round pick to make sure we secure this guy. That's how much they wanted him. But either way, 5th-round pick-wise, let's dive into the history. Okay, so 5th-round pick, you have Jordan McGee and Dominique Hampton. Love Jordan McGee, but Dominique Hampton didn't give us anything. Jordan McGee barely gave us anything, even though I believe he does have, some talent there. I believe he's like our successor to Bobby Wagner eventually. I'm that high on him. Every time you listen to the Commanders talk about him, whenever John Kahn brings Jordan McGee up in retrospect to how the Commanders feel about him, they're always talking very highly of him. He's an athletic freak coming out of the draft last year. So I'm not just completely overlooking Jordan McGee, but he barely played last year due to injuries. He didn't develop that far. So I'm kind of assuming going into 2025, he's going to almost be rookie-like again. But I love his talent. So stay tuned for him. But then when it comes to Dominique Hampton, I mean, shouts out to Ref the District for pointing out the fact that don't overthink this trade. Dominique Hampton was a 5th-round pick in 2024 who was inactive for the first 16 games and then active for game 17 and only played 6 special team snaps. Like, would you trade that Dominique Hampton for Deebo Samuel? Yes, I would. Let's go further back. 2023, KJ Henry, like this talent, but this team didn't feel like he was worth it. Would you trade KJ Henry for Deebo Samuel? 5th round of the 2022 draft, Sam Howell and Cole Turner. Would you trade either one of them for Deebo Samuel right now? Especially Cole Turner. You would not be able to get Cole Turner for Deebo Samuel in a trade. How about 2021 draft? Derek Forrest gave us one great season. I still believe he has talent, but for some reason, these coaches don't. And again, in Adam Peters, I trust. If I disagree with Adam Peters, I'm just going to assume Adam Peters is right at this point. With all of the doubt that any of us have ever had along the way, he's exceeded expectations in every single way. But Derek Forrest, at the very least, is a good special teamer. But there's no way you'd be able to trade Derek Forrest for Deebo Samuel right now. And then, don't get me started on 2020 with Keith Ishmael and Khalid Hudson. You couldn't trade both of those guys for Deebo Samuel right now. 2 5th-round picks. Okay, then 2019, you have Ross Perschenbacher. I remember him. He was pretty cool. Pierschbacher, I believe that's how you pronounce the name. But he never worked out. You could not trade him for Deebo Samuel. And then Cole was a great pick there. But you still could not trade him for Deebo Samuel either. And that's the best 5th-round pick out of any name that we've mentioned easily so far. And then you had the supplemental draft in 2018 where I forgot about Adonis Alexander. Wow. But going back to 2018, we took Tim Settle in the 5th round. Loved his talent, loved his potential. I'm surprised it never really worked out, but you can't trade Tim Settle for Deebo Samuel, especially at this point, or even just going back to you could say in his prime for any of these people. You're not trading prime Tim Settle for Deebo Samuel. And then Jeremy Sprinkle. That's it. That's the mic drop. I'm done. I'm the 2017 draft 5th-round pick, Jeremy Sprinkle. Come on, man. Now, granted, I believe in this organization to be way smarter with our 5th-round picks with this regime led by Adam Peters. Like, I'm actually optimistic that we can wisely use our 5th-round picks. Now, this is not Ron Rivera. This is not even Jay Gruden, even though he was a pretty good eye for talent evaluation, especially at times. Way better than Ron Rivera was. So, we kind of have PTSD to where, 5th-round picks, we're going to waste them anyway. I mean, we were wasting 1st-round picks under Ron Rivera. So we can't have that mentality going into this regime. So 5th-round picks, don't get me wrong, do matter, especially when you have Adam Peters drafting for you. But at the same time, man, shouts out to Oblong on Twitter because he pointed out the fact that technically, like trade value points wise, we could get a 5th-round pick back by trading 2 7ths and getting a 5th-round pick in return. That's very possible. That's just how it works out, with the trade pick point evaluations and things like that, the whole chart and stuff like that, because the 5th-round pick is worth 454 points of 152 overall, for example. And then our 2 7ths are worth a total of 435 points. So if you really want that 5th-round pick back, you can get it. And then speaking of draft picks, the Commanders' remaining draft picks after the trade are 29th overall in the 1st round, 61st overall in the 2nd round, 79th overall in the 3rd round, 207th overall in the 6th round, and then again those 2 7th round picks, 238th and 250th, and then we'll see what happens with compensatory picks. I don't think we'll get any, but I'm pretty sure like a lot of our draft picks are going to go further down when other teams get their compensatory draft picks in all, 3rd rounds and later. But I wouldn't be surprised if we trade back, especially out of the 1st round. I mean, a lot of people are literally saying like after the first 10, 15 guys, it's really comparable what you could get at like pick 16 to what you can get like pick mid 30s or something like that. Like it's basically the same thing. It's a very top heavy draft. I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting there at 29 and it's like, yeah, we could get this one good player. Why don't we trade back and get 2 good players or something like that? Or maybe even Jonathan Allen ends up going for a 5th round pick when we trade him. Who knows? Maybe you can get your 5th round pick back for that. We'll see. And then you have positives and optimism. We got to talk about that. That's the main reason we're here, right? Why do I believe that this Deebo Samuel situation is going to work out to the best way possible, best case scenario? Well, first of all, Tay Top Podcast bring up a great point. Deebo Samuel has never played with a quarterback as good as Jayden Daniels. That's literally what I thought immediately when I saw the trade. Or even going back to days and weeks ago talking about the potential of a trade, one of my main things I keep saying is, I mean, if Deebo Samuel can do that with Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo, imagine what he's going to do with Jayden Daniels, top 5 quarterback. We're going to dive into the environment that he's joining and he's going to grow in a little later, very soon. Like, so stay tuned for that. Basically, like Cliff Kingsbury is the physical coordinator. Jayden Daniels is a quarterback. Come on now. If there's any place that he could work, it's here. If he can't work in Washington, he can't work anywhere. We'll get there. But shouts out to John Comm. He even said Washington has had players they wanted to use like Deebo. Basically, we've had Deebo Samuel clones that never lived up to the Deebo hype. Now they actually have Deebo. You know what I'm saying? So we should be really excited about this, especially when it comes to the screen game and things like that. Speaking of that, you have Matt Bowen. He said Deebo Samuel and Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Horizontal player by scheme. Jets, screens, drives, crossers, catch and run type of guy. And speaking of screens, first of all, screen-wise specifically, I'm assuming Deebo Samuel will be even better than what we got out of De'Ami last year. Remember, we were excited about De'Ami Brown in the screen game. He was our best screen receiver out of our entire receiver group. Terry McLaurin had moments, and Austin Eckler had moments as well when he was healthy, but De'Ami Brown was our best screen, at least wide receiver. Deebo Samuel should at the very least be better than him at that. So at least you upgraded there at minimum. And also, the Commanders ran the 3rd most wide receiver screens in the NFL last year. So I'm pretty sure Deebo Samuel is excited about that. Pretty sure Cliff Kingsbury is excited about having Deebo Samuel. That's why so many people were mocking the Commanders to draft Luther Burden in the 1st round because of how many screens we ran. Again, 3rd in wide receiver screens last season. Now, this pretty much eliminates that possibility of getting Luther Burden because we traded for Deebo Samuel, just to warn y'all, but you should be excited about the situation because of that. And then Grant Paulson brought up some great points. If Deebo Samuel is healthy, I like him to bounce back from 2024. He'll make some huge plays. Legit Commanders offense just got harder to stop. That's the point of all of this. We got better, people. That's the main point. At the very least, you can say we got better. Interestingly enough, Samuel is 29, which is younger than projected fellow weapons, Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, and Austin Eckler. He may not be like super young, but he's younger than them. But that, I still believe we do need to add some more youth and speed to this team, especially this offense. But hey, we technically got a little younger. And then also, Grant Paulson said that the Commanders wanted to add playmaking ability after the catch, and they know they need more yak. That was probably one of our biggest, I would say, run stop into the outside was one of our biggest weaknesses. And then team speed and yak yardage on offense is one of our biggest weaknesses as well. I feel like team speed, especially in the running back group, was a huge weakness. But also, I mean, I don't think y'all noticed, or maybe you noticed and forgot, I don't know. But Jayden Daniels, like, I feel like 90-something% of his touchdowns, he had to throw them into the end zone. Very seldom did somebody catch the ball and then make their way into the end zone themselves. It rarely happened. I vividly remember Olamide Zaccheaus maybe doing it like twice. Terry McLaurin did it a couple of times as well, especially in the playoffs. But in general, we didn't have receivers that could catch the ball and then go make a touchdown. Jayden Daniels had to throw them into a touchdown. And so I'm really excited about Deebo Samuel and just that way alone. I know Jayden Daniels is excited, like, man, I finally get a little bit of weight off my shoulders when it comes to scoring touchdowns. You know how many of our guys got tackled at like the 1 or 2 yard line last year? How many more touchdowns Jayden should have had in making his MVP case? Because his receivers and tight ends want to get tackled at the 1 yard line over and over again. Terry McLaurin getting shoestring tackle from behind, all kinds of stuff. And finishing up with Grant Paulson, he said even in a down season by his standards in 2024, Deebo Samuel still ranked second in the NFL among wide receivers with 50-plus catches in yards after catch last season. This is a guy that even in a down year was still second out of all wide receivers in the NFL in yards after catch. Come on, bro. And of course, the goal is to get 2021 Deebo Samuel in 2025 here in Washington. That's the goal. Or at least get him closer to 2021 than he was in most of 2024, especially the second half. We're going to dive into why he was so bad in the second half of the 2024 season. Really random reason, but I do believe it's a legitimate excuse. And I for sure feel like we have the environment, going back to what I previewed a little like a couple of minutes ago, that is best to culminate a Deebo Samuel type of player and get the most out of him compared to what he did the past couple of years. I mean, we have one of the best offensive minds in all of football in Cliff Kingsbury. I would argue he's even better than Ben Johnson just off of the fact that Ben Johnson overthinks things and for some reason stopped running the ball with Jameer Gibbs and had Jamison Williams throwing passes. And then also we have a top 5 quarterback in the league in Jayden Daniels, who's light years above a Brock Purdy. And then the culture setting and standard upholding head coach and Dan Quinn with multiple Super Bowl game experience as both defensive coordinator and head coach, and then also leaders all around the team to make sure that Deebo Samuel's fitting in well with the culture and that they're going to hold Deebo accountable. And Terry and Austin Eckler, who's still already on contract, and then when we bring back Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz, I think we'll more than likely bring them back. This is like a great locker room to bring them in to make sure, hey, you need to be on your P's and Q's. You're not showing up 20 pounds overweight to training camp with these guys. And then speaking of 2021 Deebo Samuel, I mean, I feel like we do got to break down how great he was, because Pro Football Focus gave him an 87.2 overall grade with an 84.7 receiving grade. And after the end of the season, they did their top 101 players in order for the 2021 NFL season, and they felt like Deebo Samuel was the 8th best player out of the entire NFL. The only players they had above him were Trent Williams, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, which is interesting, Zach Martin, Devontae Adams, also interesting, Joe Burrow, Myles Garrett, very interesting, and then Deebo Samuel. That's the short list of 7 players Pro Football Focus felt like was better than Deebo Samuel in 2021. Then you have, after that, Tom Brady, Micah Parsons, Joel Bentonio, Max Crosby, Mark Andrews, Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, George Kittle on his team, Kevin Byard, Aaron Rodgers, Cameron Hayward, TJ Watt, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Mailata, Dallas Goedert, Von Miller, Justin Herbert, Jamar Chase, Creed Humphreys, Tyron Smith, Jalen Ramsey, Antoine Winfield, Nick Bosa on his same team, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. These are all players that Pro Football Focus felt were not as good as Deebo Samuel in 2021. And I don't care how far removed he is from that season, 3-4 years, I'm taking a 5th round pick on a flyer for a guy like that any day. And John Comm explained, went into further detail. He said Deebo Samuel had a dominant 2021 season, nearly carrying the 49ers offense to the Super Bowl. He had 1,770 scrimmage yards by himself and 14 total touchdowns before the Niners came up short in the NFC Championship game against the Los Angeles Rams. And I know Deebo Samuel's trying to get over that hump and finally playing a Super Bowl again. They played in it once and it didn't go as planned. So he's trying to get back and win one. Following that All-Pro season, Samuels made his first trade request as he and the Niners were embroiled in a contract dispute. San Francisco fielded offers for Samuel at the 2024 NFL Draft, but didn't get anything near what it wanted and signed him to a 3-year, $71.5 million extension. And especially when you break it down like that, that sounds like a lot of disgruntled and angry bargaining right now and contract negotiations right there. Like, I want this much money. We're not willing to give you that money, so you can go get traded. Then nobody's willing to trade for him to the value that the 49ers feel like he's worth. And then they're like, well, I guess we'll sign you to this big deal. And meanwhile, Deebo Samuel is holding out that entire time and literally not working out. Like, he's basically going on a strike on himself to spite the 49ers. And then that's why, he basically his generally been out of shape a lot, and basically he struggled since. But shouts out to All Galdi. He said the Commanders have key people in Adam Peters and Anthony Lynn, who we brought up earlier, who know Deebo Samuels very well. Understand what went right and wrong with the 49ers and why. A healthy and motivated Deebo alongside Terry McLaurin gives Washington his best wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 combo since Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson. I would agree. I wouldn't necessarily say they're that good, just because I'm not sure if you could consider Deebo Samuel like a full-blown wide receiver 2 yet. I feel like he's so gadgety that you're still probably looking for another true wide receiver 2 next to Terry McLaurin. But this guy's a deadly weapon. I feel like he's somewhere in between Terry McLaurin and an Austin Eckler, basically. A deadly weapon, but like a pure wide receiver 2, I'm not exactly sure yet. We'll see. Maybe he surprises us. But shouts out to my dog, Rio Robinson. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, subscribe to him on YouTube, all of that, man. Make sure you tell him I sent you. He said, don't gotta love or hate the trade. The wide receiver room got better, plain and simple. And the offense added versatility, plain and simple. Let's just see how it goes. I agree. And then also, I feel like at the very least, again, we got a really good blocking receiver. And that matters way more for our offense than it does for most other offenses in the NFL. Like, this offense needs a really good ensemble of blocking receivers more than most other offenses in the NFL. Between our running backs running the ball all of the time, especially to the outside, the screens that we run to multiple targets, it won't just be Deebo Samuel catching screens. He'll be out there blocking for them a lot as well. And then even our quarterback loves to run, especially to the outside, especially on fourth downs. You know, we're the best fourth down team in NFL history, and a lot of those came from Jayden Daniels running to the outside. We need as many blocking receivers as possible, and Deebo Samuel at the very least brings you that. And also at the very least, he's better than any weapons we had last year other than Terry McLaurin and Austin Eckler, especially efficiency-wise. Love Zach Ertz, but when we're talking about efficiency, Deebo Samuel is better than all of them. I'm not sure how good he'll exactly be for us, but I'm sure he'll at least be better than everybody other than Terry McLaurin and Austin Eckler when it comes to per catch wise. I mean, with the chance that maybe he's even better than Austin Eckler, because last year Deebo Samuel ranked 73rd in yards per target. Shouts out to Oblong for this one. Terry McLaurin ranked 31st. Austin Eckler ranked 50th. And then again, you have Deebo 73rd, and then you have Noah Brown, who I'm not even sure if we're bringing back, 81st. Olamide Zaccheaus 99th. De'Ami Brown 115th, and Zach Ertz 133rd. Like, Deebo Samuel is in a different category. I know, you know, maybe people are upset because of how much money we're paying them, or maybe people are upset about the 5th round pick, but you cannot argue against the fact that Deebo Samuel is not better than at least everybody other than Terry McLaurin, Austin Eckler, and maybe you could throw Zach Ertz in there. And also, I hope Luke McCaffrey works out, but there's no use of even including them in the conversation and stat line that I just gave you. We definitely got better at the very least on the surface. Shouts out to Seawall Sports. Make sure you follow her on Twitter as well. I've watched every Commanders game this season at least 4 times to include all 22. Rounds 2 and 3 versus the Eagles at least 6. Like him or dislike him, if this athletic training staff continues to do the Lord's work, I mean, again, remember, we got 20 games out of red flag, don't sign him in free agency, injury-prone Zach Ertz last year. If they could do that with him, why would they not be able to do that with Deebo Samuel? And then the reason Deebo Samuel was out and then never really fully recovered last year was not like a training staff issue. It was really a source of bad luck. We're going to dive into that later. But continuing with the tweet, this team needs Deebo Samuel on offense if they want a solid shot at going to a Super Bowl soon. Arrive violently isn't just on defense and special teams. Fast, physical, speed, power, versatility, win now. The leadership team has been clear basically on their message that they definitely want to win now. And then let's also talk about some of the haters, man, because some of the haters out there are scared, and I'm going to explain why you should be ignoring a lot of these takes that you're seeing, especially from other fan bases. Like, maybe if it's a Commanders fan, and I get the apprehensiveness, but when it's like a fan of a team outside of the Commanders, bro, like, don't even pay attention to them, because I honestly believe they're scared. I think inside they're a little afraid of what could be. They're laughing at us right now, but I'm telling you, they won't be laughing for long. Like, you have King NFL Stats on Twitter saying Jayden Daniels' average depth of target is about to be 2.1 with 19 screens per game. All right, go ahead. Go ahead and laugh it up now. Y'all will see. I mean, now, granted, he's probably going to throw a little bit more screens than he did last year. And again, we were already the third most consistent wide receiver screen team in the entire NFL. But at the same time, try it if you want to. Please try. Please focus on our screens so Jayden Daniels can hit y'all over the top. Deep bombs to Terry McLaurin and others, man. And of course, non-Commanders fans out here saying that we should have traded for Brandon Ayuk instead. But I personally have Deebo over Brandon Ayuk trade-wise just off of health, especially the contract setup number 2. And then, of course, lower draft pick by 2 rounds, because people were saying that Brandon Ayuk would probably go for a 3rd round pick fresh off of an ACL and MCL tear. People are worried about Deebo Samuel's health. What if Brandon Ayuk is never what he used to be? Deebo Samuel, I believe physically he can get back to what he used to be. I feel like it's more so like a mileage thing, taking all of those hits, you know, with the play style that he has. But I'm not worried about is his leg ever going to be the same again. And then you also have a guy like Freedom Nexus on Twitter saying the Commanders are getting all of the old washed up players on one team. But people were saying the same exact thing about Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz and others 11 months ago. These same people hating on us for this trade didn't predict for us to go to the playoffs in year 1, didn't predict for us to make it to the NFC Championship in year 1, didn't expect for Jayden Daniels to be better than Caleb Williams, first of all, let alone a top 5 quarterback just in his rookie season. All of these people doubting this trade, especially outside of the fan base specifically, didn't have the foresight to see other Adam Peters decisions would work out very well in the way that they did. All in all, they don't know what they're talking about. That's my main point of this whole thing. When you like, let the haters talk, let all of them doubt, they'll see. Just like with everything else, every move that Adam Peters has made and everybody's been like, why would you do that? You'll see. We made it to the NFC Championship, walked away with a top 5 quarterback by the end of the season. But hey, let them keep doubting. Then how about future outlook? Speaking of looking towards the future, I still feel like, I mean, now that we upgraded at wide receiver, we still probably need another one to get like a true wide receiver too. But now I feel like the focus should be on running back and offensive line for sure. At least offensively. Defense, of course, defensive tackle, edge rusher, even corner, all of that. But offense-wise, running back and offensive line for sure. Depends on how you want to shuffle it up. If you want to move Brandon Coleman to left guard, then we need a left tackle. Maybe like a Ronnie Stanley in free agency before we even get to the draft. Or if you prefer Brandon Coleman to left tackle, maybe you take a guard that you really like within the first 3 rounds that you feel like it can start at least until Samuel Cosme's like healthy or something like that. Even though I just don't really love Nick Allegretti at left guard. Again, the reason I will move Brandon Coleman to left guard is not because I don't trust Brandon Coleman at left tackle. I just don't love Nick Allegretti at left guard. And the only way to move him to the bench is to move Brandon Coleman to left guard and then bring in another left tackle. But I'm telling you right now, the focus is on running back and offensive line, especially like draft-wise, first 2 rounds, round 1 or 2, go get me like a Omarion Hampton or Travion Henderson. That's where I'm at with it. And honestly, I don't know why, but I have this feeling in my stomach that Adam Peters is not done. I mean, I feel like we're going to have a really fun free agency, but I also feel like we're not done with trades, especially as far as getting rid of Jonathan Allen, but also potentially bringing in more talent. Now, again, you have all of those haters out there saying, you know, this and that about the trade, but listen to what the experts, the guys that get paid millions of dollars, have to say about this whole situation. First of all, people are asking, who's going to stop this offense? Clearly, they're really excited about it. They have like a picture of Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel with Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. The only critique I would have is that I'm pretty sure we're going to bring in a running back 1 over Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Now, maybe you can still include Austin Eckler in that graphic because he is like a 3rd down back, change of pace back that's going to still play and get screens and things like that. He's still going to matter. But Brian Robinson, somebody's going to replace him in pictures like this. He's going to move down to RB2 with Austin Eckler as like a RB3, I guess, change of pace guy. And then also, I feel like that's disrespectful to Zach Ertz, but then again, he's technically not on the roster, so that's probably why they didn't include him, but I think you should. And then also, shouts out to Steve Palazzolo for saying, build a nucleus through the draft and maintain cap flexibility, and you can flip late round picks for good players. Basically saying that's what the Commanders did. We have the flexibility to do that because of how we've conducted ourselves leading up to this trade. Then Daniel Jeremiah, during his combine coverage when he heard about the trade, he said that was a pretty cheap trade for the Commanders, and basically that we got a steal and that it was a smart move. He also pointed out the fact that it it was already very difficult to stop both Jayden Daniels' arms and legs, but now you got to worry about Deebo Samuel as well, and that's going to be a tough ask from defenses. Then you have Josh Norris. Him and Hayden Hinks have their whole YouTube channel where they break down film, bring a lot of advanced stats. I feel like they're a great place to watch, any type of football analysis. And literally their tweet for promoting the video was, "This is why the Commanders traded for Deebo Samuel. Maybe not a perfect fit for all 32 teams, but definitely a great fit with Washington." And then literally in the video, they explain why they feel like the Washington Commanders is probably literally the single-handedly best fit for Deebo Samuel right now out of the entire NFL, probably even more than any other team, including the 49ers. Deebo Samuel, this is a match made in heaven for him, and we're the team out of any that can get the most out of him. Then you have Doug Farrar. He said he did an entirely new All-22 breakdown on Athlon Sports for Deebo Samuel. He said, how will Deebo fit in the Commanders after the big trade? Given what Deebo is great at and what Cliff Kingsbury and Jayden Daniels did in 2024, it looks like a perfect marriage. And then shouts out to George Carmi because he quote tweeted that and brought up a great point. He said, during our film breakdowns with Pro Football Focus, Nick Ackridge, and Mark Bullock, they highlighted the pony formation in which Cliff Kingsbury would use two running backs in their offensive sets. Cliff Kingsbury used misdirection and runs and short pass plays and all kinds of stuff. So it seems like Deebo Samuel is perfect for all of that. You can have Deebo Samuel along with Austin Eckler on the field at the same time, and they're both technically running backs. Anything misdirection, anything horizontal, perfect for that. Jay Gruden tweeted, Deebo will be a perfect fit for the Commanders. He even did a video on it as well. He is strong, a great blocker, can line up in the slot or outside, and excellent after the catch. Literally just what the Commanders needed. And also, Pro Football Focus pointed out the fact that Deebo Samuel has 92 missed tackles for us since 2021, 19 more than any other receiver, but you do got to remember that most of that came in 2021, so that's a little misleading to be honest, but still, this is arguably, when he's at his best, the best yards after catch wide receiver in the entire NFL. And then Dan Orlovsky said, I really like this for Washington. An offense that is about quick touches on the perimeter can use his talent well. I agree. Brian Baldinger did a whole film session. He said the Commanders, Deebo Samuel, just made the NFC East a whole lot more physical, a whole lot more competitive. Welcome, Deebo. You already know Brian Baldinger, how passionate he gets with his breakdowns. You're going to love to watch that. You're going to be so excited about Deebo Samuel. If you already like the trade, you're going to love it. If you didn't like the trade, Brian Baldinger may convince you to at least like it with the energy that he brings. And then also even Walter Football. He broke down our trade. He gave the Washington Redskins an A+ and the 49ers a B-. He said, one of the reasons I love the idea of betting the Redskins at 20-1 or better for the Super Bowl is that they have the third most cap space in the NFL. I suggested that their price would be far worse after they acquired T. Higgins and Myles Garrett. Higgins wasn't the receiver they obtained, but rather Deebo Samuel. Samuel had a disappointing 2024 campaign. He started off very well, but he got hurt in the middle of the season and was never the same after that. Samuel was available cheaply as a result, and the Redskins did a great job of buying low, surrendering just a 5th-round draft pick choice as an excellent move. As for the 49ers, this was a predictable transaction. They have a couple of talented young receivers, and they needed to shed some cap space to re-sign several key players, including Brock Purdy. I thought that they could get a 4th-round pick for Samuel, so Washington definitely won this trade. A+ for Washington, B- for San Francisco, according to Walter Football. And then Ian Hartitz, I still hope that's how you pronounce his name, but great guy to follow on Twitter as well, always bringing up great points and stats. He said the Deebo trade fantasy football reaction. He did a whole breakdown for an article as well. He said Commanders are pretty great landing spot for Deebo Samuel. Yes, bad 2024 overall. Also, yes, Deebo's numbers were quite a bit better pre-pneumonia. Now let's break that down. I feel like a lot of people miss this, and when they look at Deebo Samuel's 2024 season and try to figure out why was he so bad in 2024 compared to other years. Well, Deebo Samuel back on October 21st was hospitalized with pneumonia after the 49ers lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I feel like a lot of people miss that. And if you take a look at the stats, it adds up. I mean, just last year, we're talking about 2024, week 1, 54 yards receiving, along with 23 yards rushing. And then week 2, 110 yards receiving. Week 3 didn't play. I guess he got hurt or whatever. And then week 4, 58 yards receiving. Then he had a bad game. Week 5, only 11 yards receiving. And then week 6, he had 102 yards receiving against the Seattle Seahawks. And then the week after that is when he caught pneumonia, before the Kansas City Chiefs game or whatever, he ended up not having any stats because I believe he caught pneumonia before the game even started. And my point is, he was just never really the same after that. But he still had a pretty good game at the end of the season this past season. The very last game of the season, he kind of went out with a bang, or at least the second to last game. Not the very last game, but the second to last game against the Miami Dolphins. He went for 96 receiving yards and a touchdown and 25 rushing yards. And we're not talking about years ago, Deebo Samuel. That was literally 2 games before the last game of the season that he at least played in, stats-wise. And Deebo also has been known to be a Eagles killer. We need that. We need an Eagles killer on this team. Granted, the first time he played them in 2020, he only had 3 receptions for 35 yards and 10 rushing yards. But then in 2021, he got them for 93 receiving yards. And then in 2023, the game that most of us know, he got them for 116 reception yards, 22 rushing yards, and then 3 touchdowns total, with 2 of them being receiving and 1 of them being rushing. That guy is an Eagles killer. We need as much as that as possible, because if you want to make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, at this point, we already know we got to go through the Eagles, which shows why we got to really upgrade the trenches. But I like this upgraded skill position right here as well. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's our definitive wide receiver 2. Again, honestly, I don't believe that they even believe he's their wide receiver 2. I feel like he's just too much of a tweener to just assume he's literally like wide receiver 2 to Terry McLaurin. I mean, I feel like at the very least, we're still looking to improve the wide receiver room even after this trade. Even if you feel like Deebo Samuel's a wide receiver 2, we still need a wide receiver 3. That's how much help we need in the wide receiver room. We're not done at wide receiver. And we also have to worry about wear and tear from his play style. And also, then on top of that, you have him slapping long snappers on his team after like a kicker situation. The long snapper came to defend the kicker. Deebo Samuel slapped the 49ers long snapper, so you got to watch for that. But again, I feel like we have the right culture and guys around to prevent any type of... We'll get him out of that entire mentality. Whatever he was frustrated about with the 49ers, he won't be here. And then also showing up to summer workouts overweight, trying to boycott basically and trying to hold out for a new contract. No, we're not doing that here. But again, if there's any environment or any situation that you can get all of 3 of those things together and to improve, it would be here. Health from the first one, culture commitment from the second one, and then discipline from the other one. And then also even just stats wise, man, you got to remember, going back to the environment that he's joining, Cliff Kingsbury somehow got production out of the likes of receivers Olamide Zaccheaus, who had a career high 45 receptions, 35 more than the previous year, and De'Ami Brown, a career high 30 receptions, 18 more than his previous best. And you got to remember, he went crazy in the playoffs, which I'm not even sure is included in those stats right there. You got to remember, Jayden Daniels got 2 touchdowns each out of Olamide Zaccheaus and Jamison Crowder in the same game. 4 touchdowns between the 2. Like, come on now. We have the foundation to elevate anybody we bring in here. I mean, just bring your talent. They'll do the rest at this point. Like, come on, man. With the combination of Cliff Kingsbury and Jayden Daniels, we'll figure it out, man. I'm very optimistic that they'll get it going. Because, again, if you could get that out of Jamison Crowder, De'Ami Brown, and Olamide Zaccheaus, imagine what you could do with Deebo Samuel, especially if we add a really good running back that's another guy that they got to worry about in the headache for defenses. Also, shouts out to my dog, Ed Oliver. Make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube, everywhere. Follow him on Twitter, all of that, because he brought up a great point in the group chat. He said he feels like we still end up with a former Cliff Kingsbury guy, specifically like a D-Hop, a Hollywood Brown, or a Christian Kirk to add to the wide receiver room. I do agree that we're definitely still going to add more receivers to this room. Probably guys that, I mean, I feel like we're going to bring back some of the guys from last year, but I also do believe they are looking around for some outside sources to bring in. And Ed brings up a great point that is more than likely going to be a guy that Cliff Kingsbury has experience with, especially since Christian Kirk looks like he's going to be available. D-Hop looks like he's going to be available as well, but after that drop he had in the Super Bowl, I don't know. That was his one superpower, and he's dropping passes. Remember, he was known for having seasons without dropping a single pass. Then he had that wide open drop in the Super Bowl, so maybe he's just not the same anymore. But before we even go, I mean, I just want to list out some more positives for this whole situation, because there are a lot of positives here. Again, especially if you're looking at this glass half full, I'm telling you right now, this could end up working out very well, even beyond what I expected, because again, every step of the way last year, we didn't expect things to work out the way that they did. So why would this not be the same? But Also, not only is Deebo Samuel's contract very low risk, it's also easy to restructure like I mentioned earlier. And it's also fairly cheap to let him go if he doesn't play well. We could just be like, well, all right, we tried. 5th round pick, wasted, cool, cut ties, we're good to go. Very low risk. Also, with him on the last year of his contract, you are going to get the very best version of Deebo Samuel, both physically and mentally. Discipline, all of that. Plus, a 49ers reporter told John Com just a couple of weeks ago that whichever team trades for him will be getting the best version of Deebo, if anything. Because he pointed out the fact that Deebo, if anything, is very prideful from his experience of covering Deebo Samuel for years. And so whoever gets him, and we ended up getting him, is getting the most motivated version of Deebo Samuel you've ever seen. Because with the way that the media is talking about him, and even the fact that he just went for a 5th round pick, he knows what people think about him right now. He is out to prove people wrong, and don't let us end up going against the 49ers in the playoffs. Ooh-wee. Also, shouts out to my boy Bleeding Burgundy and Gold. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and subscribe to him on YouTube as well. He brings up a great point. Great quote. He said the offense just got better today. I'll take paying $17.5 million to upgrade as substantially as we did in the wide receiver room today. Again, compared to the other guys that were here last year. And just to let you know, this is more so a win now than like a win in the future type of move. But there's some potential for Deebo Samuel to be able to help in the future as well. If everything works out, best case scenario, and he's going into the age of 30 into the 2026 season, he's still balling out, cool. But I'm not betting my life savings on it. But at the very least, 2025, this team got way better. This is for sure a 2025 type of move. And let's be better than what we were in 2024 type of move. And really the only way up to do better than what we did last year is to at least go to the Super Bowl. And I think Deebo Samuel can help with that. And then also, you already know you're doing something right when a division rival is this scared and upset and disappointed, sad, all of that. You can wrap all of that up in the minute and 28 seconds that Skip Bayless released a video on Twitter discussing the Deebo Samuel trade to the Washington Commanders. He is scared. And literally, if Skip Bayless is unhappy with what you did as a Commanders team and fan, you should be really excited about the move. Remember, Skip Bayless was just as afraid as Jayden Daniels at one point last year, and then he went on to have the season that he had. For him to be this afraid of Deebo Samuel, I think it says something. Also, how do Jayden Daniels and Deebo Samuel feel about the trade? Well, Jayden Daniels loves it. You see his post in his Instagram story. As you can see, he said, "Let's work," with the strong emoji. And he added Deebo Samuel and everything after he heard the news from Adam Schefter. So he's pretty excited. And Jayden Daniels probably knew behind the scenes that we were trying to get Deebo Samuel. And Jayden Daniels more than likely signed off on it. I highly doubt Adam Peters would make a trade for a Deebo Samuel if he and Cliff Kingsbury didn't like do a whole rundown of exactly how do we maximize his talent, how do we get the best out of this guy before we even consider trading for him. And I'm pretty sure they also talked to their franchise quarterback, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, like, would you be interested in us trading for a Deebo Samuel? Do you like that trade? Especially over your best friend and Brandon Ayuk. I'm pretty sure Jayden Daniels gave the salute, like, let's do it. And he's excited. He's showing it on social media. And then even Deebo Samuel replied back to Jayden Daniels' reply. And he said, "Let's get to it, gang." So everybody's excited. Jayden Daniels excited. Deebo Samuel's excited about his next opportunity. And you got to remember, when Deebo Samuel was interviewed fairly recently, and when asked about playing in the Super Bowl next year, he said for sure. And if he wanted to go to the Commanders that bad, you could tell that he feels like the Commanders are his ticket to going and winning a Super Bowl right now. So that's how optimistic he is about this team, and we should be as optimistic about him as well. Also, shouts out to George Carmen because he brings up a great point. If you want a behind-the-scenes view of Deebo Samuel and his mentality, you can go watch him on the Netflix series Receiver, which came out last year. Great show. He said, I'm going to have to put a few episodes in again. Because you have Deebo Samuel, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, I believe that's George Kittle, Justin Jefferson, and Devontae Adams. So if you want like a behind-the-scenes on his personality and everything like that, to kind of get a feel of the player that we just traded for, that everybody's talking about, that's a great way to get a behind-the-scenes view. I got to go watch that because I never watched it the first time. So now I'm about to go watch it for the first time because we traded for Deebo Samuel. And then, of course, you always know I'm going to save this at the end of every video like this. Y'all know me. I'ma always give Adam Peters the super benefit of the doubt with every decision and move that he makes. I'm very sure, again, he talked to Cliff Kingsbury and came up with a full game plan for how they would get the greatness out of Deebo Samuel before they even made this trade. And every time that we've even slightly doubted a decision that Adam Peters has made, even hiring like Bobby Johnson as our offensive lines coach, things have always worked out nearly to the best case scenario possible. Why would we stop now with a guy as talented as Deebo Samuel? And again, as I've already explained in this video, why he was so bad in 2024 after he caught pneumonia. It seems like he really didn't recover until like the second to last game of the season that he played in. And so I feel like that's a perfect view. The first few games he balled out, all but one game. He caught pneumonia, and then at the very least at the end of the season, you see, okay, there's still some Deebo Samuel in there. I feel like it's a perfect combination of why there's an excuse why he was so bad, and also there's like a glimmer of hope as though, okay, this is what he still can be. He still has some left in him. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. I did not expect it for it to be this long in the recording. I forgot to even give y'all a trivia question. I guess I'll do that later on with the video that I give y'all. I completely skipped. I wasn't even able to give y'all the trivia question from yesterday, but stay tuned for that. But I really appreciate y'all. If you made it this far in the video, I'm 58 minutes into recording. You are the GOAT. I really appreciate y'all again for the fact that I'm so late and y'all probably watched other people's videos and y'all still came to pull up to watch mine. That is love. So I really appreciate y'all. Salute to y'all. Of course, make sure you leave a like on the way out. And most importantly, let me know how you feel about this entire trade in the comment section. Are you as optimistic as I am, or are you at least in the same boat as me, as like, maybe you doubt the trade a little bit, but in Adam Peters I trust. Every time we've even slightly doubted him, he's proven us wrong and gotten nearly the best case scenario in every situation and decision he's made. So do you at least feel like that, or do you just straight up hate the trade? Or are you even past me and you're like, man, I love Deebo Samuel regardless. I would have given up even higher draft capital for a guy like Deebo Samuel. Let me know where y'all fall in line in this. Let me know especially why as well. Like, however you feel about the situation, let me know why you feel that way. If you could provide stats, injury history, whatever. Really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.